Hello everybody and welcome to Bishop's Lydiard Station for another day out at the West Somerset Railway's Summer Diesel Festival, this time in 2025. Now today was going to be a full day out on the West Somerset Railway. Usually I only spend the best part of around 3/4 of a day, so that is the entire morning and a little bit of the afternoon at the event. However, today I'd gotten a lift to the station so I could get on the first train because the bus times were not good at all, and then I got the bus home from Watchet at around 7:15 in the evening. So it really was a full day out on the West Somerset Railway. Anyway, here we are leaving Bishop's Lydiard Station on the first train of the day, which was the 0800 departure heading towards Minehead, which I believe called at all stations. This was being hauled by the Class 45 attending the event. Arriving into Watford Station. I did this exact journey on this exact train, well not the exact train, but the 8 o'clock departure from Bishop's Lydiard last year. However, I believe from here on out it gets a little bit different. Here is 45108 leaving Washford on the first departure heading towards Minehead. The train will be calling at Blue Anchor, Dunster and finally arriving into Minehead. Here I am now at Washford Station, located in the village with the same name. At the station itself, there are a few goods sheds and sidings, however I don't believe they're really being used at the moment. As well as this, the village is sort of interesting, but it is mostly filled with 1970s housing, as well as the Washford Inn. After having a look around the station, my next train went around the corner and soon I could see it from miles away. This would be Class 33 D6575, which is one of the West Somerset Railway's home fleet. As we leave Watford, you may notice that all of the staff hanging around the station building are West Somerset Railway staff. This is because since last year, the West Somerset Railway now run the station instead of the Somerset and Dorset Heritage Railway Trust, who previously had something to do with the station for some odd reason. I don't really get why. Although most of the trains at the West Somerset Railway Diesel Gala this year, just like all of the other years, had normal coaching stock, every year since COVID they have used the DMU as extra coaching stock due to a lack of coaches themselves. So it is a shame you don't get to ride on the DMU on its own. I'm not too sure what class of DMU it is, I have forgotten. However, it is the only type of that DMU left in the country still in preservation. So that is quite something. And in more recent times, it has gone out quite a bit, whereas around COVID and just after COVID, sort of 2021, 2022, it stayed in the engine sheds for ages. It hasn't run in quite a while. Here I am now, changing trains at Willerton. Luckily, this connection is one of the more better connections on today's adventure across the railway, and therefore when we arrived into Willerton, the train going in the other direction hadn't actually pulled into the railway station yet. As well as this, the footbridge that I am currently walking on at Willerton Station isn't actually Willerton's original station footbridge. I believe the footbridge itself was taken from nearby Trowbridge Station across the county border in Wiltshire. Anyway, here is my next train arriving into the station, which is 25185.
Both works well.
Here is 25185 leaving Willerton on the second train of the day heading towards Minehead. I will be taking this all the way to the end of the line at Minehead. This is one of the better sounding Class 25s, even though it wears the BR Blue livery, which I don't think looks brilliant on the 25s. I do prefer the BR Green livery instead. am leaving Dunster Station, which is the station before Minehead. It is quite a small station, but gets ever so popular, especially with walkers alike, who like to walk from the railway station up into the main historic part of the village across the A39 road, or like to walk the other way down to Dunster Beach, which isn't exactly the best beach. There is some sort of sewer thing there, I'm not really too sure what it's called, but it isn't great. The station itself, though, is beautiful, and there's lots of old things just rotting away in the old sidings. As well as that, the station has 2 level crossings. Arriving into Minehead Station. As you can see, one of the GWR HST castle sets is still here, technically on storage, although saying that, the GWR and First Group stickers are no longer on the train, so perhaps the West Somerset Railway now owns it or something. I will be very surprised if they do, because it hasn't done very many runs at all in 2025. Here I am now, having a look around Minehead Station, which is home to the West Somerset Railway's Cider Festival, which is pretty packed, but did get ever so popular, especially as the afternoon went on and into the evening. As well as this, it is home to the Turntable Cafe, as well as one of the West Somerset Railway's shop. I would say this is the better one of the 2 shops, with the other one being located at Bishop's Lydiard Station, which is the flagship station along the route. As well as this, the station itself is located right next to Minehead seafront and is a short walk away from the town centre. It also has pretty good bus connections. Anyway, here I am leaving the station once again on 25185, heading back to Dunster, just one stop up the line and is around 10 minutes away. Arriving into Dunster Station. I only had a quick look here, therefore didn't really film much at the station. However, it is home to a small shop, some good sheds and sidings, and 2 level crossings like I mentioned earlier, one at each end of the platform. The station this time around was actually really busy, which I was very surprised to see.
Dunster! Dunster!
After having a look around the station shop, which was alright, but I feel like it could have been a little bit better with some work done, since it wasn't really a shop to be honest. All they had for sale was a few books and model railway items. The rest of the stuff was on display. It was pretty decent to be honest, maybe I'm being a bit too harsh. Anyway, my next train arrives into Dunster to take me back to Minehead. This was Class 14 Teddy Bear D9526, one of my favourite locomotives at the event. Here I am leaving Dunster Station on D9526, heading back towards Minehead on the 9-minute journey. If you do like filming trains, that is just filming them on the platform, not actually riding on them, and would like to get some tones at the Summer Diesel Festival here at the WSR, I suggest coming to Dunster. You get a lot of tones here due to the amount of level crossing usage you get. Here I am arriving into Minehead Station once again, this time for the final day, even though it was only around midday. For the rest of the day, I'd be bumping around the railway at the Willerton end of the line, sort of in the middle of the line if you will. Now it looked like it had rained here a little bit, but the worst of the rain was still to come, and so was the worst of the diesel trains. No, I'm just joking, the best ones are still to come, just like this Class 50 hanging about here. However, saying that, my next vehicle was not a train at all. It was a bus, and it was unfortunately a right street light. You can tell what's coming. Yes, I'm getting on the 28 service to take me to Willerton, just like I hinted at earlier in this video, just then. Unfortunately, it was a street light, not an E300 on this run, but at least the bus wasn't cancelled. I thought it was going to be cancelled then. Thank you. Here is this right street light, first bus vehicle 63043 in the new ultraviolet livery, leaving Willerton 4th Street, which is the stop in the town centre, on the 28 service bound for Taunton, and also stops at Bishop's Lydeard, and the 28 is actually marginally quicker than the West Somerset Railway services, although I think that is because of how the timings work at Willerton Station and other stations where the trains pass. Anyway, the rain actually came down pretty hard in Willerton, so I didn't actually feel much at the station. But there goes that Class 50 we saw at Minehead earlier on its way up to Bishop's Lydeard. I'll be going on this a little bit later on, and this is a stunning machine.
Yeah. Right, thank you. Cheers.
As well as the Class 50 being located here when I arrived at the station, Class 33 D6575 also left the station with the goods service heading in the other direction. There are a few of these running on all 4 days, including the mixed traction day on the Sunday, and as well as that, there are a few things for sale at the DEPG base located next door in the Willerton Goods Depot. As well as this, outside of the engine sheds at Willerton DEPG Depot, there were the Rail Adventure Class 43 HSTs, unfortunately only on display, but it was still quite nice to see them since they're usually up north and not in this part of the country. Anyway, it's quite ironic that this event was called the Summer Diesel Festival because it looks like I'm filming it in the winter. Anyway, here is the Class 45 I went on earlier, arriving into the station. I'm not a massive fan of peaks, but they do look excellent, especially in the BR Blue livery. Also looking tremendous was Class 35 High-Mech D7018. This is one of 2 High-Mechs being preserved at the WSR, and by the time it got to me, it was actually still running and hadn't broken down. Famous last words. No, it actually was. It broke down later in the day. Anyway, here it is arriving into the station, looking gorgeous in the BR Green livery. Here is D7018 leaving Willerton Station on the service heading towards Bishop's Lydiard. I suppose you'd call it east, however I'm calling it north for the sake of absolutely nothing. I'll be taking this as far as Crocombe Heathfield, which is a new station for me on the Summer Diesel Festival. I have been to it once before, so technically I suppose it's not a new station. It is for me at the Diesel Gala though. Here is D7018 leaving Crocombe Heathfield heading towards Bishop's Lydiard. Now I don't believe D7017 was supposed to do any runs today, but when it was supposed to do runs, D7018 also did them, so maybe that was why it broke down. It was overworking. What you may not realise is after D7018 did its massive tone, which was pretty good to be honest, the 25 heading the other way also did a slightly quieter tone. After having a look around Crocombe Heathfield Station and charging up my phone and iPad because they were both on pretty low battery and I did need them for a couple more hours, albeit I don't think you're supposed to use the power sockets here on the West Somerset Railway, my next train thundered into the station, which was Hoover, Class 50, 50015, otherwise known as Valiant. I believe this train, along with the 45 and the 52 coming up in this video a little bit later on, came down from the Severn Valley Railway. Here I am leaving Crocombe Heathfield on 50015, heading towards Minehead. I'll be taking this as far as Blue Anchor, which is another crossover point along with Crocombe Heathfield and Willerton on the line. Albeit on normal service, Willerton is only used as a passing point. Get ready for some great thrash. Honestly, this Class 50 is one of the best locomotives I've ever been on. Here I am pulling into Willerton Station once again, alongside the Rail Adventure HSTs. Here I swapped from standing in the vestibule area so that I didn't get in everybody's way to a table seat, which meant I did get some quite good footage in between here and Blue Anchor.
Mr. Hawkins!
well as Dunster, Stigumber and Doniford Holt, which you'd expect anyway. Here I am arriving into Blue Anchor, where I had quite a tight connection, and I'm pleased to say that I just about made it. As well as that, the station itself is kind of a nothing station, something of nothing. Everybody acts like there's loads to see and do here, but in reality, it's a station in the middle of the Somerset countryside. Although saying that, there is a holiday park located right next door to the Heritage Line, and there are some great seaside walks you can do between here and Minehead. As well as that, you can also walk the other way towards Watchet along the old coast road. Here I am leaving Blue Anchor, this time on a double header which I've already been on. This double header was being formed by 25, 185 and Class 33 D6575. Although I've already been on these trains, it was still great to get another ride behind these two magnificent locomotives. I'll be taking these as far as Stigumber, which was the only station, apart from Doniford Holt, I had left to visit along the line, apart from Watchet, but I will come on to that later on. Here I am arriving in Stigumber, which is one of the more popular small stations located along the route, with other stations such as Dunster not being as popular, especially Doniford Holt. Here I am now at Stigumber Station, which like I said a minute ago, does get extremely popular, especially in the summer season when there are a few more trains operating along the line. The countryside around here is stunning, and it is located not very far away from the heart of the Quantocks. It's just a short walk away. I say short, it's probably around an hour's walk away, but the village of Stigumber itself isn't too far away at all. As well as this, the station gets ever so popular because it has some weird cattle thing at the end of the platform, as well as a very nice welcoming cafe which does lovely hot chocolates, and you can also get a little cheeky Kit Kat to go with it from here. Anyway, I had no time for that messing about. My next and final train was arriving into the station, and oh boy, it was quite a sight to see a Western arriving into Stigumber. Yes, my final train was the Class 52 D1015. Here is D1015 or D1015, depending on how you say it, leaving Stigumber Station, heading towards Minehead. I'll be taking this to watch it. I'd say I'd come onto the station a little bit later on, and yes, watch it of all places would be where I finished off my journey, and not before I got one last flash behind Western Champion. This was honestly a great locomotive, and it is a champion in just about every single way. 6:15, arriving into Watchet Station, heading towards Minehead. Just before I end the video here, I'd just like to say thank you from everybody at the West Somerset Railway, even though I have absolutely nothing to do with the Heritage Railway, and to be honest, they're a bunch of snobby twats. I'm sorry, but they're very ignorant sometimes. I'd just like to say thank you to the Severn Valley Railway for donating 2 or 3 locomotives to the West Somerset Railway just for this small event. Without you, it would be a shadow of what it has been like today. Honestly, this is the best summer diesel festival I have been to yet at the West Somerset Railway. Now at Watchet Station, and just in case you didn't notice, D6566 was also on the rear of the train, just acting as a static train on the rear, just in case anything went wrong for the Class 52, although saying that, the Westerns are a very reliable set of trains. D6566 was basically acting as the Thunderbird for today's event. Anyway, in Watchet, you can find the local museum about the harbour and the town, and there is the harbour itself, which is very nice, especially at 7 o'clock in the evening. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you quite soon for another great event, this time on the buses. Bye everyone!